Hello, lovely people. I'm Debs. Welcome or welcome back to Raina Read Stuff, my channel. I'm here in the book shack. I'm filming today book tag number 2, but I'm going to post it. I'm going to post it Friday. So, hello, happy Friday. This is the Bronte Novel Tag, and this was created by Melinda at A Web of Stories for her reading event for this month, which is March of the Moors, on the Moors, which is about Bronte reading the Bronte sisters. So I was tagged multiple times. I was tagged by Melinda. I was tagged by my friend Pat at Book Chat with Pat. I was tagged by my friend Jim at Jim's Books, Reading and Stuff, and I was tagged by my friend Sarah at My Granny Era. So with all of those, I thought I'd better do it. Plus the fact it's a tag specifically for March, and like I said yesterday, we're running out of March. So there are 7 prompts for this one, and they are all based around the titles of Bronte books, but you don't necessarily have to have read the books to do the prompts. So the first one is AGNES GREY, and it says a book about women in the workforce. I have gone for this. 5 Dead Canaries. It's by Edward Marston, and it's part of the Homefront Detective series. I like these books very much. Now, the reason I've gone for this, this is a series of books about a London detective, a detective inspector and his sidekick, his detective sergeant, in the First World War, who are based in London and are doing the things police officers do, sorting out crimes. Now, this one starts with 5 dead canaries, and the canaries in question are workers, female workers from a munitions factory. So we get the female workforce there, and it talks quite a lot about how women were taking over traditionally men's roles during the First World War, really for the first time, because the menfolk were in France fighting. Not only does this series deal with women munitions workers in here, the whole series deals with Detective Marmion's daughter, who becomes one of the first women police officers. And there's a lot of discussion about her role and what she does and whether or not people think it's appropriate for her to do that. So that's the first one. Jane Eyre, a coming-of-age novel. This is number 2. A coming-of-age novel featuring a female character, centred on a female character. I have gone with Bonjour, Tristesse by Francoise Sagan. I love this tiny little book. I've read it multiple times. It's about a 17-year-old girl. She's on holiday in the French Riviera with her father. And during their holiday, her father decides to remarry. And it's also about Cecile's love affair with a guy called Cyril, a young man called Cyril. I like this book very much. Number 3, The Professor, a book by a favourite author that is not your favourite. One of my favourite authors, as you will probably know if you've watched this channel more than once. P.G. Wodehouse, this is Dr. Sally. I like this book very much, but it isn't Jeeves and Wooster. It isn't Smith. It isn't Blandings. Dr. Sally is a great character, but there's just... P.G. Wodehouse wrote so many books. You have to have some that aren't your favourites. This is one of mine that isn't my favourite. It is still worth a read, and if you come across it in the wild, buy it and give it a go. Right. Question 4. A book about female friendship. Oh, I am going with this. I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Harpman. This was one of the best books I read last year, and it centres on a group of women and a young girl. Only one young girl, the rest of them are adults. And it starts, they are in a cage. They're in a cage. They've got no idea how they got there. They've got no idea where they are. And they are guarded by a group of men who walk around the outside of the cage, berate them if they're doing something they shouldn't do, bring in food every so often. And then a load of alarms go off just as they're delivering the food. So they've opened the door of the cage. They're midway through delivering this food to the women. An alarm goes off. All the men rush out. Some time goes by. The women still don't know what's happening, but the door's open. So they head out and up some stairs to have a look and see what's happening. And there they find nothing. They find no guards. They find no buildings. They find no transportation. They find nothing. They find countryside. And the book continues as these women develop a community on their own. At least when the guards were guarding them, they were provided with food. Now they have to learn how to find it themselves. They have to make themselves accommodation unless they want to go back downstairs into their dungeon. And it is how their relationships are formed and how they learn how to cope. And it is just brilliant. I love it. Now I've lost the questions. Nope, here they are. So, number 5, a book about someone in a toxic relationship or recovering from a toxic relationship. I have gone with Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Thurston, which I buddy read with my lovely friend Pat from Book Chat with Pat last month. And Janie, who is the central character in this novel, her grandmother marries her off very young because she spots her kissing a boy over the garden fence and decides that the safest thing for her to do is to marry young Janie off and see her safe before she herself dies. Her first marriage isn't a good one. Her second marriage isn't a good one. Eventually, Janie does find love. So not only is this about her being in a toxic relationship, in fact, 2 toxic relationships for the price of 1, it's then about her recovering from those toxic relationships. It's brilliant. I can't believe it's taken me this long to read this book, and it's certainly one I would read again. Question number 6, Villette. A book about a character in a new land. I have gone for Small Island by Andrea Levy. This is set in 1948. So we're only just after the end of the Second World War, and it's based in London. And England is recovering from being, even though it was victorious, it was battered during the Second World War by bombs, and obviously lots of people were killed. And this is where we see the start of the Windrush generation, where we have people from particularly the Caribbean being invited by the English government to come over to the UK to help rebuild the country. We have Queenie, who owns her house in London. She is unsure whether her husband is missing. She's unsure whether he's returning or not. And she takes in a lodger. She takes in a lodger called Gilbert Joseph. He's come from Jamaica, and he also then subsequently brings his wife, Hortense, over as well. It's a really good book, really good book. I haven't read it for a really long time, actually, and now I've got the urge to read it again. Maybe not this month, though. Finally, the final question is Wuthering Heights, a book where a house or other building plays a major role. Now, I am going with one I read last year, and I read it, I think, on a Delphi classic, so I haven't got a cover of it. But I'm going with The House of Seven Gables, which is by Nathaniel Hawthorne, and I read it last year with James from Quaint and Curious Volumes, because he held a Gabe Prill read-along, which was quite good fun. This is a Gothic novel. It was published in the mid-19th century, 1850s-ish, I suppose. And in this, there are flashbacks to a house. We have a brother and sister who are living in this house, but the house isn't owned by them. The house is owned by another of their relatives. But the sister, Hepzibah, opens up a shop in the house to try and support her brother. Her brother has recently returned after having served 30 years for murder. And there is a mystery around what happened in this house, but also about the ownership of this house. I really enjoyed this book. It's probably one I would read again. Not yet, though. But yeah, it all revolves around sort of guilt and retribution. And it's about the ownership of this ancestral home. It's really good. So that's it. Everybody I know has been tagged in this already, and we are approaching the end of March. If you'd like to do this tag, please feel free. It's a great tag. I really enjoyed it. And if not, I shall see you on Sunday, when I'm planning to do my weekly reading wrap up. So thank you for popping by. Have a lovely weekend, and I will speak to you really soon. Bye for now.